Hello, everybody. If you just popped on, it's Cami from the Freedom Scholar, and I am so excited to have Grandmaster David Amiccuci on with us tonight. He is super amazing. I'll tell you about him in a second, but I would like to tell you about the Freedom Scholar. If you're new to the Freedom Scholar group or the Freedom Scholar community, we are basically a educational discussion group, an educational community. The Freedom Scholar itself, I created early in the spring of last year. Actually, it was in the summer, I want to say. The Freedom Scholar started as a blog about freedom, just because I really love learning about freedom and helping others learn about freedom and giving resources so that we can have a conversation about freedom, because it's huge and so important right now. So anyways, in the spring, I just felt very called, and by summertime came and people were really not sure what to do with their education of their kids and everything. I decided that I needed to use my wealth of knowledge as 7 years of a public school teacher and 8 years of homeschooling, and definitely helping people all around in different areas and learning about all kinds of different homeschooling and distance learning and all the stuff that we've got going on now. My husband's actually a public education teacher still, so he teaches all the distance learning stuff. And what we do is we're educational mentors. So we help youth and adults kind of set up your educational plan, make it more amazing. Whatever kind of schooling you do, homeschooling, distance learning, public school, private, unschooling, whatever it is, we may help you make it more amazing and help you reach your goals. And our philosophy is that every child, every person is a genius and has genius inside of them, and definitely has a mission to fulfill to help this world. And gosh, if there ever was a time where we need people to fulfill their missions like Grandmaster is, that is definitely now. So that's what we do. I know Grandmaster. I've known him for 2 years now. We were lucky enough to get started in Kajukenbo when Kenyon, my son, was 5 years old. And man, we loved Kajukenbo. At first, it's because it's kind of like it's a street fighting mixed martial art, and it was designed in Hawaii, which is where my family's from, so we automatically had like a connection there. But and also it was actually founded and developed in the area that my grandparents grew up in Honolulu and Chinatown. So that is super amazing, and their old stomping ground. So we had a connection, but at first, of course, like every mom, I was like, I don't know, this is kind of vicious. And then as we learned more, I'm like, you know what, if somebody's gonna take him down and like gonna attack him, like, I want to take him down. I don't care what you do to him, So it's become really, I've fallen in love. I'm a Kajukenbo groupie. I don't train specifically, but I watch every class. I'm trying to read and like get stuff done, and I'm watching Grandmaster because I'm so excited, and I'm totally like learning as well, which I know enough Kajukenbo, as I say, just to get myself in trouble probably. So, but I love Kajukenbo. I love the way Grandmaster teaches it. The first day we walked into his dojo 2 years ago, my husband and I said, that's it. This is exactly what we want. It was the history, it was the legacy, it was the culture, it was the expectation. We actually went to an advanced class because our son was, fairly advanced in the previous dojo. And so we said, well, let's check out the advanced class. And so we went to the advanced class, and poor Grandmaster was like, this is not how it normally is in the regular class. And I'm like, no, man, I want him to be high expectations. I'm like, this is awesome. He holds the expectations high, but he does so with grace and with patience. And man, sometimes I'm even like, man, I wouldn't have been that patient. But it's amazing. And do those kids respect him for it, and they rise to the occasion, and they love him. And they have Grandmaster has such a deep legacy. He has such a deep bench of all these students he's trained over the years, and his father-in-law, Agang, who we'll talk about as well. But it is definitely something where you don't often see black belts come back and come back and come back, and even come back to, especially to train. And that's what Grandmaster has. And I'm so, so excited that he took time out for us today. So Grandmaster, I know you've mentored, I think I saw in your last interview you did 5 years ago would have been like 10,000 students. Tell us how that, like, how are those, who are those students? Not just martial arts students, I know. Tell us about yourself a little bit.
Well, where the 10,000 came from, I had to do a job study for my work. I'm retired corrections officer for Solano County Sheriff's Office, and 29 years of service. I was, my primary duty is I was a corrections officer, but my secondary duty was I was a field training officer, which is a mentor extraordinaire, right? You know, and also I was in charge of, I was one of the lead instructors for teaching defensive tactics and, you know, the taser and the baton and all the tools. So basically I was teaching martial arts that was designed for law enforcement. So, so it included my law enforcement students as well as my regular students. Yeah, so, but yeah.
So tell us like about your martial arts background, because I know martial arts like is it's so deep for you that you're not just doing Kajukenbo, but all other martial arts as well.
Yeah, so so I've had a lot of experience because when we did law enforcement training, it took us all over the country to go to training schools to be certified as an instructor. So we went to like LAPD and arrest and control school. And like when I'm saying these things, just like all these, I see pictures of my mentors in my head as I say this, right? Don Cameron and Cameron Consulting, you know, for his defensive tactics course. But then it just goes on and on, right? So that's my law enforcement background. And then of course, it originally started with my martial arts background. So I started training when I was an older teen, close to 18 years old. And I did a form called Paying I Knew. And then what brought me to California was I was in the military. And my instructor, York, said, hey, if you want to go where the mecca of martial arts is, go to California. So I did. So I went here to train, couldn't find a place, found my instructor, you know, and then when I saw Kajukenbo, because I did go to a couple other schools, and I'm like, yeah, that's not it. And then when I saw my instructor, I met my instructor for the first time, and I saw him teach a class. I had like chicken skin, and I'm like, oh, that's it, man, this is the place. But I was so fortunate because when you guys, you know, when we're talking about Kajukenbo, I always have to do my thing, right? My thing is I can't say Kajukenbo because there's just so many and it's so vast. Back in the 70s, there was only a handful, you know, but it's just gazillions all over the world. So I have to say TRK. If I talk about TRK, Tony Ramos Kajukenbo, I can talk about my family, my Ohana, right? My training unit. So with the TRK, I had a gong and Tony Ramos. That's his given title is a gong. And he was an awesome instructor, an awesome mentor, and he was very eclectic. And he allowed me to train directly under his stick fighting instructor because Agong moved back to Hawaii. Our school was founded in Fairfield in 1962, in California in 1960. Agong trained until 1987. He had our headquarters here, but he moved back to Hawaii in 87 to retire from civil service. And then my wife and I took over the school in 1987. And his stick fighting instructor, Supreme Grandmaster Kajukenbo, from the Doce Pares system, he moved, and when my father moved from California to Hawaii, Kajukenbo moved from Philippines to San Jose.
That's amazing.
And then my father-in-law gave me Agong gave me direct permission to train under him and to just further our knowledge in here to where I got to the rank of senior master under Supreme Grandmaster Kajukenbo.
Yeah, and Kenyon actually gets to take Doce Pares too, which is amazing because Doce Pares, if you don't know, is a Filipino stick fighting, and it's under the umbrella of Eskrima. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, but it is really interesting, and it blows my mind as I learn more about it for sure, because I didn't even know anything about it. But so you just mentioned like two amazing mentors. Tell me, like, what does mentoring mean to you? Like, how would you define it based on, your experience with
Well, and then of course, if you go down and you just like, what is a mentor, right?
Right.
It's someone that has tremendous amount of experience and expertise in an area that you're just dipping your toes into, and they just saturate, mold, and guide you. That's what it means to me,
Yeah.
and it just is, it's you got to be it, right? It's all about the family, right? The training family. So that's why, like, you were talking about me. Thank God you did it.
I know Grandmaster hates talking about it.
I hate it. But I got to tell you, man, it's just it's just family, and I don't care if they're with me a day. I'm preaching to the choir. If you're just with us, that everybody's family here. And if something was to happen to one of those kids, and when I say kids, everybody's my martial arts kid. I have 74-year-old kids. They're a little bit older than me. I have 74-year-old students, and I treat them like they're just family, and they're like my children, But that's what it means to me, is and I just had when we talked about this, like, I'm thinking in my head about mentors, and I mean, I can't come up with a bigger list, of the mentors that have actually made me who I am today.
And it shows, yeah. So, what about Agong and Kajukenbo? What about them made them good mentors?
They both share a lot of very similar. That's why they got along, right? But they share a lot of similarities, a lot. And to have a better understanding of yourself is to understand those martial arts, right? Because they give you a better enlightenment and understanding of yourself, the everyday struggle that you have as a human being on this earth. And, Agong just was he had a huge heart, okay? A huge heart. And he could get you to do things like no other. And like he had several instructors that he had promoted, several black belts that he had promoted, and a lot of them tried to imitate him. I mean, like down to a T, and it just doesn't happen. It's like you're trying too hard, brother. It's not you're not mimicking. So being a mentor is definitely not mimicking, right? It's that guiding. And what did his was he was firm. He was very firm, very firm. In class, it wasn't for the faint-hearted, especially when it was serious business time with him. But man, he would give you the biggest hug, and you just knew, and you would do it. You just do whatever he asked because of that heart, that he had.
Right.
Kajukenbo, he was, I mean, if you just read his bio, please, they're both legends in their own right, but he was just a phenomenal. I mean, there should be books written on his biography because he was just phenomenal. decorated World War II veteran. You know, his family was basically, he was a guerrilla fighter in World War II. When MacArthur left the Philippines, he stayed because he was there, and he was a guerrilla fighter. He said we'd go up in the mountains, you know, during the daytime, and at night we'd come down and, you know, do what they had to do. And, you know, but when it was all said and done, it was just business, and they were all buddies when it's all over with, right? But with him, he proved his martial arts also, and, you know, he's got like 100 documented death, they call them death matches. And so here he is, this killer, if you would, and he would just be smiling and laughing with you, and, you know, he was just so intelligent, and what he did with Dos Pares to make it, so that's why we call ours Kokoy Kinyete Dos Pares worldwide, because that shows that we're under him, that we do his method of Dos Pares. But it's a complete martial art in itself, but he just renovated it. He just did tremendous things with it.
Wow. Yeah, I know that both Agung and Kokoy Kinyete are absolute legends in the martial arts world. And it is definitely a small community, although very large. It's a very tight-knit community. Yes. So, you know, it's interesting that you were talking about some of those things I definitely see in somebody else I know, you know. That's one of the things that drew me to, you know, Tony Ramos Kajukenbo Dojo in the first place, was that I wanted my son to become, when he was a black belt, I wanted him to become a black belt. I wanted that to mean something, not just something around his waist. And I felt like if you look at Grandmaster's brown belts, which is right before black, it's phenomenal. They have more, gosh, I don't even know how to explain it, but they act more like black belts than most other black belts do in other dojos. And so they just have a sincere commitment and hunger and respect. And that love of learning is so deep. And man, it is amazing. It is amazing. So definitely when they, you know, Grandmasters black belts, you know, when they promote, it's something. It means something. It was when Kenyon was at the last black belt promotion that we were able to attend last year. He was so on fire, that kid. Oh my gosh. He was like, oh my gosh, did you say that, Mommy? He kept looking at me and like, you know, do you say that? It was awesome. It was awesome. So that's when you know the kid really likes doing what he does. That's for sure.
Well, you know, one of the funny things that I wanted to share with you, and we've talked about this before, I think. So we have big windows, and, you know, and so the mom decided to stay outside, and it was a student that they were probably with me like 2 weeks. They just started, and so the child bows off the mat, right? And the parents, so we make sure that he gets to the car, and, you know, so the mom calls me later that night, and she goes, Grandmaster, and I go, yes, what's going on, Mrs. So-and-so? She goes, I just got to share this story with you. I go, what? And she said, my son came to the car, and his eyes were like, big. And he goes, Mommy, they're doing real karate in there. I go, yes.
That's how I felt when I went in there.
She goes, yes, son, and that's why you were doing real karate. Oh, okay. I think he's like a brown belt now, though. You know what I mean? But it was just
exactly. Fun. That's so awesome. That's so awesome. So tell me, like, what kinds of things do you, when somebody, so coaches are natural mentors. I know I was not only a public education teacher, so that not by definition, but I made it a point to be a mentor to, you know, one of the things we talked about last month was the difference between teaching and mentoring is, first of all, teaching is skill-based. It's teaching, you know, how to learn, right? And then the mentoring is the why, the like, how to individualize it. The person that really cares, the person that, I've seen a lot of teachers, but I've also seen a lot of mentors, right? And I think that happens not just in school, but in everywhere, because I was also a water polo and swimming coach, and I was an athlete, all growing up, and I have seen my fair share of teachers versus coaching. So teaching versus mentoring.
Yeah.
Mentoring and coaching, I think, get interchanged a lot, but I feel like sometimes you can coach and it is still teaching, but it's not mentoring. And I feel like, so what kinds of things do you do with the kids that make it mentoring versus teaching? Because I see like today's class and Kenyon's class today was a lot of mentoring at the end. What kind of things do you do?
Well, so it's really tricky, because the martial arts that we do are world renowned for self-defense. And of course, when people first hear martial arts, they're thinking about the external kicking the booty thing, right? And definitely we're known, Kajukenbo's, world renowned for being able to protect yourself. Mm-hmm. So that is not an issue with me. So like, I know if someone comes in here, within 6 months, I would say within 6 months, somebody puts their hands on your child, they're going to know they do martial arts. Okay, definitely. So that's not a problem, because that's the external, right? So my thing is the life skills. Okay, and that's where the mentoring comes in. Okay, so we have pillars in our school. We talked about pillars today. Okay, and those pillars are for everybody, but definitely you can be a student without them, but we have to work towards them. But if you don't have the pillars, then we won't have PRK. So we need to have those pillars in structure for that, right? So we talk about it, and what it is the basis of honor, loyalty, bravery, and family. So we talk about that with them, and we want them to know what those are. And we even cover how there's a lack of that today. We don't necessarily get these types of talks in school anymore because it's not popular, okay? Or it's not the whatever way you want to put it. But that's why I'm so enlightened that we can share that in our training methodology, because in order to be a SWAT team member, which is basically a student that assists teachers, that's just like another level to get them to be instructors and to be black belts. Now, our instructors definitely have to have it. Our black belts have to have it. Our SWAT team members have to have it. So we got to develop it at a lower level and work its way in. And we do it with mat side chats. We have a mat side chat, and we always have to slip that in or get a motivational. And one of the things my students do is they all are required to speak. They all are required to speak to the class and to speak to us. So these are all valued life skills, and we just cover like simple things like making eye contact. Okay, huge respect for an adult other than your mom and dad. Okay, it just on and on. But the great part is like I'll sit down and look at mentoring, right? And I'll look at what a mentor is and everything. And I discuss this with you. It's what a martial artist. It's what a TRK martial artist is.
Yeah, right? For sure. That is now our experience, and I am so excited about that. And what's amazing is I definitely see that in your in the instructors. All Grandmasters instructors are volunteer, and they're all adult black belts, and it is so refreshing to be able to see them, that they want to be there, that they're excited the Grandmaster has so much depth and in learning and is such a student that he's always learning, and so they always get something from him. They're continuing to come back, and they have a legacy. They want to pursue the legacy of Tony Ramos Kajukenbo, which is fabulous, and that goes to the character. And I think that's one of the things I love about the mentoring, because sometimes you ask the kids, like, who helped, what did you do for Thanksgiving to help your mom, or something like that. And I love that, because you're definitely promoting family, and they're like, well, you didn't just sit on the couch and do video games the whole time, 2 weeks, did you? So
right. And what's that? So what? Oh, everybody's getting ready to go on vacation, right?
Right.
So what does vacation mean? Oh, that we get to have some extra time. Yes, you do. Isn't that cool? But that extra time doesn't mean it's extra time that you're not helping mom and dad. It's extra time that mom and dad doesn't have to do extra stuff for you, right?
Right,
Yes.
That accountability and responsibility, and that's something we talked about in the phases of learning, in core phase and in love of learning, that those foundational principles are going to lead them into ownership of their own education, whether it be through martial arts or sports or their own great academic education, and becoming a lifelong learner. And I think that's definitely something that I feel like you give them, and not only that, but you show them that. And I know that you do the interviews, you do like individual mentorship sessions as well when necessary. Like, what do those look like for you? Like, what do you chat with people about, or kids or youth or adults too, because you chat with adults all the time?
Well, as you know, before any student can go up for promotion, they have a letter that goes home with them. And that letter has to be signed by the parent saying that they're a good citizen at home. Okay, they're a functional family member, doing the right things at home. And then they have to have the signature from the school, basically saying that they're being a good citizen in school, their grades are squared away and everything. And at sometimes that doesn't come back with a check for positive. So I can only help so much. Like I tell the parents, it's hard when you bring me, like, if it's like an F, when it's getting there, when it's starting to,
right,
then bring them into my office, right? Or we'll have certain parents that'll be like, he loves doing this karate stuff, so I'm just taking it from him because I'm going to punish them. I'm like, and I really can't help them then, right? Oh yeah, bring them in and we'll talk. So I have a standard rule that we go into my office and mom and dad are present, and we shut the door, and whatever gets said in there stays in there. And we discuss, and we talk about it, and we talk about, especially during these COVID times, I've had to have some discussions, distanced, of course, but we've had to have discussions. My office is big, so and parents had brought them in there, and I've had teenagers that were having major issues at home, and mom wanted me to discuss with them. And there's a lot of tears happening in there, and what we found and I was helping mom find out and dad, is that there's a lot of depression going on in the house, and they didn't talk about it amongst each other until they were in the office. Mm-hmm. And we got to share that, and we combated it, so everything is doing good right now, for that, which I'm very grateful for, but it's talking to them about what does mentoring and having a child, right, that's being mentored, right, they stay focused, they get improved behavior, their grades become better, they get around a healthy lifestyle of like-minded people, right? And then you get to the adults, because I have the adults. I call in my kids with their adults, right? And same personal fulfillment, right? Goal setting, okay? When an adult comes in, why do you want to train? Well, I want some physical conditioning. I go, great. I go, how about life skills? I'm not sex. Oh, really? And I go, let's improve your self-esteem, huh? How about that? Can we do that? What about, relationships? Okay. Look at this. You're around like-minded people, right? Look how this is, and it improves your interpersonal skills. My son who's an instructor here, he had a very close friend. Thank you. He had a very close friend, and that friend just had to go to a job interview because they needed work experience, right? College student. Went in there, it was supposed to last 40 minutes long, okay? It lasted like 10 minutes. The interview lasted like 10 minutes, And they're like, oh my goodness, I just it was terrible. I was like, and I said to my son, too bad they didn't train. Too bad they didn't do martial arts, because you don't realize how that helps out.
Oh.
So they started doing my stick fighting class and everything. The next job interview, they're like, it's like, they were like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Because it's the culture that you create in the like-minded community there. And I think that is something that we're talking about, you're talking about mentors outside the family. Parents are always mentors, and they can be mentors in a good way or mentors in a not so good way, right? And so you have to, like our life leadership service provider that I've been a part of for a very long time, Chris Brady, he always says you have to choose all the time whether to be a force for good, right, or not.
Right.
So that's always the case. But I know that everybody watching here wants to be a force for good and is definitely working on that intentionality. And so being a parent, it is by far the very first number one mentor. And then at some point, sometimes you do need mentors outside. And I know that I am so picky, having come from.
Yes, you are. You are. She's picky. She's picky. She should be. Coming
from a teaching and coaching background, it's very difficult because I know how to run a class. I know how to, have a group do an activity. I know how to break down a skill. I know how to, I've mentored kids a lot. So it's really hard for me when we go to we could not do a swim lesson to save our lives. We get 3 days and I'd be like, that's it, we're quitting. I can't handle this. God bless them, the teenagers, but I used to be one of them, but I'm just saying, I know a lot more now and we're going to go to grandma's pool and I'll help you out there. But it's important to be super picky about your mentors outside the family, because those are going to be something that's not only, like Grandmaster said, reinforcing the family values and the family connection there, but also helping build your child into, like he said, confidence and maturity and lifelong skills as well, and helping them set goals. I have never, ever, ever found anything better to teach goal setting than, well, I can't say that. That's just my experience, I should say. My experience is that there's nothing better to teach goal setting than sports and athletics, because it pushes you and you naturally goal set, and you break down and you have challenges and you work through, and it's really something and a good coach, a good mentor is really where it's at. And that's why we are so blessed definitely to have Grandmaster do this. And there's a couple more, just one more question here. So what we've talked about, can you kind of summarize what parents should look for in a mentor, outside the family?
Oh man, okay, get your pen and paper ready. There's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a lot, right?
There's a lot.
Experience, right?
Fruit on the tree.
What about lifelong leader? High integrity.
Definitely.
Let's see. What about being trustworthy?
Absolutely.
Transparent. That's another good word, right? Transparent.
No.
Supportive. My favorite's coming up though. We talked about high integrity. Let's go compassion. Right? I mean, you've seen Grandmaster on more than one occasion, especially black belt, brown belt area. You've seen me get a little teary-eyed, a little misted up, Um, uh, bold.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? Bold, right? My favorite story, my mom watching me teach a class. First time, Italian mom. She was probably like in her 80s. First time she saw me teach a class when she came to California. It was a kids class. It was my advanced, I think, 2 kids. And she was just sitting there and she was going like this, shaking her head, and she goes, the class was done. I go, Mom, what's going on? What's up? She goes, oh, David, you're so tough on those kids like that. I go, Mom, if I wasn't tough on them, okay, they wouldn't give it back to me.
Yep.
And they step up to the plate and give it back.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean when I say bold.
Yeah, when I was teaching, there was another teacher in my department who was probably almost twice my age, because I started really young. I started when I was 22. And starting in high school when you're 22 with high school students, it's like their brothers and sisters are older than you.
Right.
It's a little tough. So there's some adjusting years, but I remember one of the teachers saying, he explained to me like how the kids act with him. And they're the same students that I had. And I was appalled. Those kids would never act like that with me, ever. It wouldn't even cross their mind. It's just
right.
It's just not acceptable. And then they respect the boundary, which is awesome. Which is also a parenting, tip too. But they respect the boundary and they're looking for it, So,
yes,
it's awesome like that.
Absolutely. Well, what people don't realize is that kids today, they want to talk about it, but it's those children, they crave everything that I just said, everything you're talking about, they crave it.
Yep.
But they just can't find it. And I just want to go real quick to your parent thing, is that, a lot of martial arts instructors cannot teach their children. They refuse to because the children just don't listen. There's a lot that don't. In fact, when I had a child, they were like, "Are you going to teach them? Who are you going to send them to? I'm going to send them to right over here. I'm right over here." But Grandmaster's a student of life, and I learned from that quickly. And my instructors, who I learned from, meaning my students that are certified instructors, had to come and be like, "Hey, GM, you're like really on them quite a bit, and it's kind of obvious, just kind of, oh, okay." And I'm not the knucklehead. I'm receptive to it, and thank God I listened, right? And that's huge. And the same thing, with parents trying to mentor their children. Sometimes you've told them things a million times, but that one stranger that they respect or whatever, and then they come back to you and say, "Oh, Dad, you know what? Dude, we've been teaching you that forever since you were a little kid." But it's different, right?
Yeah, if you could get Kenyon to hold his plate while he's eating, that'd be amazing. I'm just saying. Because I've been saying that since practically he was born, and it's still
right.
But that's such a good point, and I think one of the things that we, to relate to that, one of the pillars of Thomas Jefferson education and leadership education, which we've been talking about for the last month and a half or whatever, it's a philosophy that I follow in homeschool, is example, right? Example.
Yeah.
And then also you can't be a mentor if you're not being mentored. That's tough to hear sometimes, but being mentored and being open to being mentored allows you, and like you just said, you can take a little criticism and be fine with it. I've run into people where that's not okay. You tell them like, "Hey, I didn't really, I didn't understand why you did this, could you whatever," and things blow up or whatever, and it's definitely not somebody you want to have your kids around, that's for sure, or teaching your kids. And so that's something that we talked about, examples, everything, and that inspires kids, it inspires adults, it inspires everybody when you are a student, and then you have this fruit on the tree, and you're always learning, because the more now the more the less right? And so it's super amazing. I think that I am so grateful to have you on today and to have you be such an amazing mentor to Kenyon and the rest of the students at TRK, because they are so blessed to have you, and Simo.
Thank you.
And Simo is also a good mentor, for sure. And she keeps everything together, which we love. So, so anyways, I want to definitely announce one last thing before we go here, and that is that so coming up next week, I'm going to be talking about having a family reset. So when your family is like, there's a new baby born, there's like, a turnover, a change, you just moved, you're getting ready to move, like there's some drastic change, or you're just starting to homeschool or something like that. By the way, I was going to mention that one of the biggest things I hear from people who find out that we homeschool is for years has been, oh, I would love to do that, but yeah, my kids won't ever listen to me, and that's like what you were saying. And I always say, yeah, I had to grow a lot. It's just that, it's amazing, but the beauty that comes out, it's a long-term vision, and I think that's one of the things that I really love about TRK is the long-term vision. And not just out to, get a work. I mean, yes, you're out to get a workout, but you can do that at the gym. So, so anyways, so next week we'll be talking about taking a family reset. Sometimes you need to just back up and reconvene and do some things and just then move forward again slowly and try some things. So we'll be talking about, that's one of the things that Thomas Jefferson Education and anywhere that you talk to that does, the parents are responsible for education, because they always are. No, even if you're in private school, you're responsible for their education. And so, that's one of the things that you can do as a family. And then on the 28th, or no, the 21st, we're going to have an adult social, people. We're going to get together, we're going to chat, we're going to do some fun things. And then here's a cool thing, that everybody who attends the adult social, it'll be at the same time, it'll be on the Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And so for those of you in Hawaii, it'll be super early or dinner time, it's all good. And do it around the dinner table. But anybody that attends is going to get a free 15-minute consultation call or consultation session with me. So that is awesome. And we mentor adults and students and whole families. And I've just been so excited about the families that I've been working with. I mean, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It is amazing to see the light happen and the changes happening slowly, but they are changing, and the commitment that parents have to making their household, their culture, their education for their students the best. I'm just so excited about that. And then the 28th, we'll have Mandy Frost on, who is an academic life coach. And she's going to be talking about motivation. She's a very new friend of mine. I'm super excited to get to know her better and have you guys hear from her. But she knows a lot. She's been mentoring for years, and she's from South Africa. She lived in Kenya for a while, I think, and then she lived all over the United States. So she has an amazing background, and she's definitely going to be able to talk about motivation. Maybe we'll have Grandmaster back and talk about motivation too. A lot about that. So anyways, I super appreciate you guys being on tonight, and I couldn't be more grateful for Grandmaster and taking time out of his schedule to talk with us and share all of his vast knowledge. So thank you, Grandmaster.
No, thank you so much, and thank you for everything that you do for everybody. I really appreciate it.
It is definitely something that I feel so moved and so called to do now, and I'm so happy to be sharing it with everyone. So I am grateful for anybody and everybody who's part of this community, for sure. Awesome, guys. We'll talk to you next week, and I will see you in the group.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.